Understanding Recall Healing Through the Royals, Part 3, Generational Syndrome. Another fascinating aspect of recall healing is generational syndrome. Your birth order position in your family can determine which ancestors you are in link with. Ancelin Schutzenbuger discovered that there was a connection between children of a particular birth order within a family. If there was a family of 9 children per se, she noticed that the first, second, and third-born siblings were not linked with one another. She did observe that the first, fourth, and seventh child were in line with each other, as well as the second, fifth, and eighth child, and the third, sixth, and ninth child. Not only are children linked to their specific row in that generation, but they are linked to their ascendants and descendants too. So, as above, so below. Going forward, I will be referring to children either being in the first row, second row, or third row. It is also important to note that all pregnancies are included, including miscarriages, stillbirths, and abortions. Let's continue to use Queen Victoria and her husband Albert. Queen Victoria is the third-born child on her mother's side, and I hypothesized that she was her father's second-born child. Second row heirs. When looking at Queen Victoria's children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, the royal line is succeeded by the second-born child, or heirs born in the second row. In fact, even Victoria's predecessors were born in the second row. King George III was the second-born in his family, Edward, Duke of Kent, was the fifth, Victoria was the second, Edward VII was the second-born, George V was the second-born, and finally George VI was the second-born. That is 6 generations of heirs in the second row. The fall. Prince Leopold, Queen Victoria's 8th child, died of a cerebral hemorrhage or stroke after suffering from a fall. His niece and nephew, Grand Duchess Elizabeth, the second child in her family, and Prince Frederick, the 5th child in his family, succumbed to their injuries after a fall, too. Her brother, Prince Frederick, fell out of a window and later died of a brain bleed and hemorrhage, a contributing factor of his death due to him having hemophilia. Grand Duchess Elizabeth, at that time a nun, was killed by the Bolsheviks after she was thrown in a mine shaft and set on fire. Another program passed down from Edward, Duke of Kent, was death by pneumonia. Edward, the 5th born, and his great-grandchild, Princess Victoria, the 5th child for her parents, died of pneumonia. The royal disease. Queen Victoria's 3rd, 8th, and 9th children were carriers of the royal disease hemophilia. Queen Victoria was the 3rd born on her mom's side, and I hypothesized the 2nd born on her dad's side. So, according to the birth order matrix, Queen Victoria belongs to both the 2nd and 3rd row. If you look further at Queen Victoria's grandchildren, most of the lines that carry hemophilia were either in the 2nd or 3rd row of the birth order matrix. The 6th born grandchild. Most of Queen Victoria's 6th born grandchildren suffered a fate of dying early or having themselves and their entire lineage killed. Prince Waldemar, the 6th born child of Empress Victoria, died of diphtheria at the age of 11. King Edward's the 6th child, Prince Alexander John, was born prematurely and died 24 hours after birth. Even Queen Victoria's great-grandchildren were affected, as King George VI's 6th child, Prince John, died at the age of 13 from seizures. Princess Alice's 6th child, Tsarina Alexandria, lived to adulthood. However, she and her entire family were executed by firing squad by the Bolsheviks at the conclusion of World War I. Princess Helena's 6th child, an unnamed son, was also a stillborn. Where does this program come from? Queen Victoria's 6th child, Princess Louise, was the only child out of all of her 9 children to not have any children. It was also rumored that her husband was a homosexual. Looking further up her family tree, Louise's aunt, Augusta Sophia, the 6th child, did not have any children of her own. Even further up the family tree, Augusta Sophia's mother, Queen Charlotte, was one of 12 children. The sixth child in that family, Sophia Louise, died young as well. To hypothesize, it is very likely the sixth born child carried a program unbeknownst to them to not reproduce or even exist from somewhere within their family tree. Your name. Who you are named after also contributes to what you unconsciously take on. The energy of a name can add extra fuel to what you carry and what you may need to release or walk on if its legacy is toxic or hinders you in a particular area. Queen Victoria's firstborn child, Empress Victoria of Germany, named after her mother and grandmother, shared a similar fate as her grandmother, Mary Louise Victoria. Empress Victoria also lines up with her maternal grandmother in the birth order matrix. They both line up in the first row. Empress Victoria is the firstborn, and her grandmother the seventh-born. Remember, the first, fourth, and seventh child is in the first row. When Queen Victoria ascended the throne, she banished her mother, Princess Marie Louise Victoria, due to being brought up in the strict Kensington system. Like her grandmother, Empress Victoria of Germany was banished out of her home, which was in Berlin at that time, when her son, William II, ascended the throne. Her son, the firstborn, had a tough upbringing due to his disability from birth. His mother, Empress Victoria, tried many experimental treatments to cure him. However, none of them worked. It only made the son resent his parents. To his parents' dismay, William II was a staunch autocrat, much like his grandfather, whom he was named after, while his parents were liberals. After his father died, only 99 days in office, he took over and kicked his mother out. Empress Victoria, now isolated, later died of breast cancer a few months after her mother, Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria's ninth child, Beatrice, named her third-born child Leopold after her brother, Prince Leopold. However, just like his uncle, Leopold had hemophilia and died due to the disease. He bled out during hip surgery. King George V, the second child of Edward VII, was dying due to lung-related illnesses and was euthanized as a result of his condition. His son, King George VI, King George's second child, died of lung cancer. Both King Georges were the reigning monarchs during each World War. George V was king during World War I, and George VI was king during World War II. They were also the second born in their family after the firstborn male was not available to serve, either because of death or abdication of the throne. To hear a more in-depth discussion of the birth order matrix and the energy a name carries, listen to my podcast on recall healing with expert Dr. Michelle Lamassa Schrader.